Hi, everyone. I am so excited for today's guest. Candice Nicole is an award-winning publicist of 16 years and a proud graduate of an HBCU, Morgan State University. She is the founder and CEO of Candice Nicole Public Relations, a boutique PR agency where purpose and intention meet. She has been recognized by the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. as an emerging leader in Black business, named one of the top 25 African-American PR millennials in the HuffPost, and has appeared in several lists within the PR industry. In addition, she's inducted into the Who's Who in Black Charlotte 2023 and made the Q City Metro's Power List, Black PR Professionals to Know in Charlotte. In addition, she is the creator of Respect the Publicist, which is a network of publicists that also welcomes those who are journalists, branding, marketing, social media professionals, and has over 2.5K members on Facebook. She is a podcaster, author, PR instructor, and outside the box thinker and game changer who is on a mission to inspire and educate. We are so excited for you to hear this conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be such a great topic because we've had so many people interested in PR and just this whole field of, when you're thinking about public relations in general, a woman-led firm, getting into the field and everything. So we can't wait to dive into this with you.
Awesome.
I want to get started though with a very baseline question because some people might not fully know or understand. So could you tell us a little bit, like, what is public relations?
So the easiest way, I love this question. The easiest way to explain someone who is like never heard the term or they've heard the term, but it's just, in passing, is public relations that equals your visibility, right? And then of course, if you open up the door to marketing, which usually people say, well, what about marketing? Marketing, that equals your sales, right? So on the PR side of it, what is going to be your strategy that is going to amplify your visibility? On the marketing side of it, what are you doing to amplify your sales? But to go more in depth, of course, and a lot of people I know when they think of public relations, they always think of the media interviews, which is like the media relations. And that's such a small portion of it. I know that's the most popular. And it's because someone wants to say, oh, I was on someone's podcast. I was on the local news. I was featured in this magazine, but there's so much more. There's brand reputation, of course. The storytelling is, learning your story and, well, your publicist or your peer agency learning your story and then crafting your story so they can share it with, with the public and also with the media because there's so much power in storytelling. It's a lot of different entities that go under PR that make it the big public relations. But as a whole, it is about your visibility and staying consistent, with your story.
Love it. The storytelling element is so key. And I feel like people forget that oftentimes they're so focused on the product or whatever they're selling that they
Yes.
forget, hey, there's a cool story that goes behind this.
Yes, and people buy people, okay? Not all the time, let me say that. However, unless there's something that I saw and I'm like, you know what, this is just genius. I'm just going to buy it because I've been thinking about it. I may do a quick buy. But if I'm tuning into something, I'm listening to a podcast or I'm reading a magazine and I hear this story I'm reading the story of the why this woman decided to start her own firm or why she decided to, create this lotion or whatever. That will a lot of the times will resonate with individuals. That's the storytelling. I'm like, never be ashamed of your story. You started something because you felt there was a need, right? Yes. Anything is started because there was a problem and you felt you had the solution. So tell that part of it.
Absolutely. And speaking of the storytelling piece, can you talk to us a bit about what inspired you to pursue a career in PR?
So it started out, I was at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and I was actually a photographic media major. I wanted to be a photographer, very specifically black and white. I was into photography before it was like digital. Like I feel like I'm aging myself. But I was the one like in the dark room. of developing, and it was such so therapeutic and everything in the sort. I still want to get back to it, honestly, to this day. And I just wanted to, be put in a dark room so I can develop, pictures. But as you know, in school, as you have all these prerequisites, right? Before you get to your core, classes. And it was all these art classes, and I love the arts, but that was not my thing of like drawing and all this stuff. So I went to the catalog and I said, let's do communications. I only had to take math 109. I'm not a math wizard. And so I was not going to set myself up for that. And I said, okay. And then within communications, they had all these different concentrations. And I looked up public relations and, learned that I could do public relations in different entities. Like if it was politics, it's more so public affairs. But I could do it in hospitality, entertainment, sports, travel, you name it. And I said, well, let's put the focus on that. And as I got more into it, I said, oh my goodness, this is storytelling. Like you're kind of in the back, coming up with the strategy and you can execute it with, with your client. Things have changed nowadays with social media. More see the PR person, right? Who's behind the scenes, just things have changed. But back then, I started college in 2002, right? It was different. And so even as a young girl, I love to read books. So I always had this love for storytelling. I always loved hearing a person's story about their life. Like, that's interesting. So why did you do that? And it always was fascinating. And so it just ended up being my passion. I really, really love the storytelling and like what makes people tick.
Oh, I love that. And that's too, it's I always like to tell people it's like the human side of it, right? Like just when you hear what somebody's going through, what
Yep.
inspired them, you feel a reaction to it and it's like they're more human, right? When you talk to them that way.
It's the human connection. And I want people to really get back to that
Mhm.
of the human connection because we live in this microwave society. We've been living there for a while now. And I'm like, when are we going to come out of this bubble? That's not life of living, you put it in the microwave and in a couple minutes it's nice and warm and it's tasty or whatever it is. I always use like you put a bag of popcorn in the microwave and in 3 minutes it's this buttery bag of popcorn. That is not life, right? And even then, sometimes the microwave will be wonky
Yeah.
and that thing will burn some of your kernels, right? But it's just not life. And I want people to get back to that human connection.
Yes, absolutely. And when you decided to start your own firm,
Mhm.
what was that motivation? Like, why did you want to start your own? What did that journey look like?
Yeah. I wanted to, well, when I was living in the Maryland, DC area at the time, and really honestly, still like to this day, and at the time, my background is entertainment and music when it comes to PR. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with the celebrities and work at record labels and everything of the sort. So they did not have any PR agencies that focus on that. And so it was like, well, Candice, you just have to create your own. I've never been shy about if the lane is not there, Candice is going to open up that lane and create it for myself. Because there's a bunch of creatives in the DC area. So I had a girlfriend of mine, went to high school together. She was a singer. And I said, well, I just graduated all this, this knowledge of how it works. I said, so I'm the publicist and you're the singer. And that's how CMPR literally was birthed. And yeah, that's how it was. Now going on, like I would say full time, right? Full time. Because it's been 17 years in PR, 9 years full time. Crazy to say that. Because I was just trying to survive. Ooh, girl. I was trying to survive like the first year, 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, wow, people are paying me for my expertise. So with that, it was at the time I was working at Fox 5, Washington, D.C. in the traffic department. And for those that don't know, the traffic department is not, we're out there saying you go north, south, east, west. It's commercials, right? And I just had, my director was just the worst. Yeah, she was definitely the person where she should have retired like 10, 15 years,
Mm.
Before I got there. And she was just there. And I just felt like she was just, still receiving a check. Um, and it was like, I mean, it was just terrible. At lunchtime, I would sometimes go to my car and cry. It was, yeah, it
Oh,
was just, it was bad. And I'm like, this is not it. Now at the same, as this was going on, I still was doing CNPR on the side. And I can't do this. And I was applying to jobs because I didn't have quote unquote agency experience,
mhm.
but I had worked with the top of the top, on different campaigns and everything. They wouldn't, hire me, yet alone just like really even have a solid interview. And I said, well, here you are once again, Candice, right? You've been applying, you want to change. And so my mom, her background is in HR. I was raised that you do not quit your job until you have another,
Mhm.
right? And when she gave me the okay, I said, well, I don't care what anyone else says. My mom, who, okay, I was raised a certain way, she has my back and she, believed in me. And I said, I know that I can do it. I did not have a business plan. I did not have a savings account. I knew that I would have like the last check from Fox coming in. And then at the time, I would have two other checks from other agencies that I was freelancing with coming in.
Mhm.
That's what I knew for sure that was coming in. So I literally had to bet on myself. At this time, I had my own car, my own apartment, and I was like in a mid-rise where I had to pay for my parking space and everything. And I was like, whoo, okay, but you can do it. And month by month, and I am a believer. And, my bills, they were met. And,
Mhm.
it just kept on growing. So that's the story of, deciding to go out on my own, like full time.
And it's one of those things too where I feel like when we start, a business, people don't talk enough about that pivotal point, that moment where you were like, I'm doing this, right?
Mhm.
And they also don't talk enough about getting your first client because I feel like once you get that first one, then it's like something shifts and it
Mhm.
changes.
Yeah.
For those listening, can you talk a bit about just your experience with getting clients, right? And you've had a journey of securing some really high profile people, right? Now, what is that process like for you? And when you think back to even your first major client, like did any sort of like doubt set in? Because I think that's common for a lot of people. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
somebody's paying me for my expertise.
Yeah. I would say the term that people use these days, imposter syndrome. And I'm the person, I'm like, well, bring it on. Bring that imposter syndrome on because obviously I'm supposed to be here. That's why you're feeling that way because this is what you've wanted and now it's looking you in the face, right? And so I'm like, try to rewire and say, bring it on. Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I prayed about this. I wanted this. I manifested however you want to, lay it out for yourself. And now it's looking at you. So you conquer it, right? Um, your first client, I would say first like a nice paying client. You know what? I would probably say it probably was my freelance opportunities that I had just throughout, my years of where I said, oh, okay, so this is what I'm supposed to be getting paid. This is what it could look like. Having the conversations of what others were others were being paid for their expertise. Because here's the thing, I'm a believer in that someone says, okay, well, I want to make my retainer, $5,000 a month. Okay. There are individuals that get paid $5,000 a month, for their PR expertise. However, what is your client experience? Um, are you going to deliver on that level? It's fine that you want to make that, right? But can you deliver on that? And so I want to say that too, if anyone is thinking about just, your paying client and how you, attract those clients, um, be mindful of that as well, right? I would say word of mouth was a really great friend of mine. I definitely active on social media. I've been on Facebook for a long time. I was like on Facebook when you had to have your college email address to join Facebook. Okay,
Oh,
so that really dates me. I was on Facebook then. And so I talked about my clients, the events that I was at. I took the pictures and I knew what would sell at the end of the day. They love to see that, and not everyone will start in entertainment and music. Let me say that, you guys. You do not have to do that to be successful in PR. Let me say that. It just so happens that a lot of the time, sometimes that is your first like dipping your toe into it is the entertainment route. But I knew people wanted to see that. And so because they saw that, they were like, oh, this is great. I want to be at the events that Candice is at because obviously she's going to get her clients in the door if she's working with these type of people. So I was really great at documenting. That's why I'm really big on getting your BTS and putting up your content. And it's because you never know who is going to see it. And that is something that worked in my benefit. And at the time, I don't even know if I knew at the time what I was doing. Of now that we have these names for it now, it was just me sharing and wanting to get my name out there so I could get more clients.
I love that because people are so sometimes afraid of social media and putting their work out there. And I don't know why.
No, you need to. And here's the thing, you're not bragging about yourself. You're letting people know, like, this is what I've done. Facts
Yes.
are facts, right? So they're like, well, I don't want to come across this way. And I don't want to think of I'm braggadocious. I'm like, if you don't get out here and tell these people
Yes.
what you have done, a closed mouth does not get fed. I can't say that
Yes.
enough.
Oh, I love that. Mhm.
It's people are like, I need this, I need that. Okay, did you the last 3 weeks on the campaigns that you've done or the clients that you've secured here or whatever you've done as far as like, content, meeting in person with a client, have you shared that? Have you shared those experiences? Then I don't want to hear it because you're sitting on things that can, position you to be seen so people can see the work that you do.
Absolutely. And people forget too, like, even think back to when you hear about someone, the first thing that you do is search them, right?
Yes.
And stuff comes up, right? Their LinkedIn, Instagram. And then if something's compelling, you're like, because I remember even when, we had first connected and I had learned all about your work too. It's like, you're like, wow, this is so cool. And how it's being portrayed so visual, right? I know the why, the what, and the person behind it. And that goes back to what you
Mhm.
talked about earlier with the storytelling piece.
And that's the thing too. Don't be afraid to, here's the thing. This is for the person that feels like they are stuck.
Mhm.
Someone that wants to be known for their expertise. You have to get away from, well, I don't want to share all my ideas. Let me tell you something. Maybe 5 people that see your reel about the top 3 ways to do something are actually going to execute it, right? So, and here's the thing, you're giving them 3 or 5, 7 ways to do something when you know there's like 30. So you're not giving them the entire enchilada. And that's why I'm like, I can never, people, as much as I talk about PR versus marketing, someone still asks me a question about it, which is totally fine. You may not have saw the things that I posted about it. How do you measure success in PR? They may not have seen certain things. It's just you have to constantly talk about it. And I think people get so hung up on, well, I don't want people to steal my ideas and execute. But even if they do, even if they take my 5 ways to do XYZ, I want them to come back and tell me, Candice, I remember when you did this reel about XYZ and I did it. And oh my gosh, I've seen a change. Thank you. Can I use this as a testimonial? Better yet, can I send you my Google review link
Yes.
and you drop it there? It's like, come on, you guys, like get over yourself.
I
And
love
like
it.
you have to share if you want to be in position.
Yes, 100%. And speaking of sharing and highlighting your brand, you do two really, really interesting things. You have Respect the Publicist and you have the Virtual Publicist podcast.
Mm.
Can you tell us about both of those, what they are, what they do?
Yes. So with that is a group that is exclusively on Facebook for now. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. We're now at 2.6 thousand members on there, and that honestly started out of frustration of what I was saying. When you start something, it usually comes out of there's a problem, and I just felt like people were not respecting publicists. And I was on Facebook, and I did one of my updates, and I just used the hashtag respect the publicists. And I said, I went back a few hours later because people were liking it. And I said, ooh, there's something here. So I got the domain, got all the social media. And I said, you know what? You should probably start a group and invite some publicists in there. Like, I know we all feel the same way. We feel like there's a lack of respect, and that's why I speak on certain things because I do want people to respect us. So please don't handle your business crazy, because it is a reflection on those publicists that are professional, right? And show up a certain way. And so that's how that started. Now it's a group of not just publicists, but journalists in there as well. There are some that do social media branding and, and marketing. And it's because in a perfect world, if we can all exist, it's great. We can all, be able to lean on each other, especially journalists and publicists, because the journalists, they have stories to tell. The publicists, we have the story for you to tell, right? We have the subjects with our clients. So it's like, let's get in here, have some fun, have the communication. What are you working on? So that, blocks out your time trying to look for a source, where all you have to do is say, hey, does anyone have a client in here that does boom, 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 boom? And there you go, right? You don't have to go, looking for things. With the Virtual Publicist podcast, and I'm so determined to like get 6 episodes, going before like I go on maternity leave, because I absolutely love it. Basically the whole concept with that was honestly just being someone's publicist, their virtual publicist, and answering all the questions. So we talk about digital coins, talked about the 3 Ps of PR. Once you get the media interview, what do you do now, right? And now that I have a newsletter on LinkedIn, I'm actually going to be taking that and turning some of those into episodes as well. Because here's the thing, you guys, repurpose your content. Like, because there are some people who will read that LinkedIn newsletter that don't want to listen to the podcast. There's some people that are like, even though it's a 2-minute read, that's dope that now it's on the podcast. I can just pop it in on my way to work, or I'm working, or I'm cooking, and I can, play this like 10-15 minute, episode. So I'm excited about that. Basically it's just to be a resource, just coming up with various creative ways of the entry point that someone learns how I work. You can't just expect that someone learns about you like, okay, Ashley, I want to hire you. There may be some people like that, right? However, a lot of the times, I've been following you for some years. I've actually tuned into a few of your episodes. I've actually heard about you. I followed you, tuned into your episodes, and I think this will be good for us to work. That's usually what the conversation, is. And so that's what it was, just coming up with that entryway.
I love that. And it's like you spend so much time creating that original content. Of course, you want to try to find other ways to share it. And you're right, people like different things, right? I mean, listening to both, and sometimes you might have read something and might have been like, okay, I got it, but then it wasn't until you listen to it, the podcast.
Exactly.
I got it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have my favorite time now is to ask these two last two questions, because there's always such interesting responses.
Okay.
The one question is, we talk about great advice, but what's one of the worst pieces of advice that you've ever received?
Oh my goodness. What's one of the worst pieces of advice that I've ever received? That everyone is my client. Everyone can be my client, which is terrible. That's not true, you guys. It's just not true. Everyone is not for you, and everyone cannot be your client. If you have anyone, a business coach or whatever, says, no, I mean, you can be in this industry, you can exist here, you can exist here, and they will, no, that's just not it. And that was said to me. And then of course, I'm like, oh, okay. And then you're trying to then, spin your wheels and figure out how to navigate that space. And it's like, no, I'm looking for a very, or more so wanting to attract a specific individual, right? People have, your ideal, but at the end of the day, you have a specific individual that you do want to attract. And it's someone that does have an understanding. You may not know everything about PR, but you've done some research down to that point, right? I'm not looking to attract anyone that's never heard it before and it's like, so I heard I need you. What can you do for me? Yikes. That's definitely not the person that I want to attract. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. And as we're thinking about advice, feedback, your journey, this last question I have for you is, we are on Queen Me. We talk about people unleashing their inner queens. What does Queen Me mean to you? And when you think about your whole journey and how you unleashed your queen, what are some reactions and thoughts that come to mind?
I love the name first. Let me say that.
Mhm.
And then very quickly, I still feel like I'm unleashing my queen,
Yes.
right? I don't think this is me personally, of where there may be specific times that you remember,
Mm.
right? But I don't think like that's just the time when I did it and that's what it was. It's like,
Yes.
no, you're always gonna have these times where it's like queen me. What does that mean to me when I hear that? Queen me, like queen me of all things, like you are that girl.
Yes.
That's how I take it. Like queen me, because yes, Candace is that girl.
Yes.
I keep on showing you guys over and over again, right? That's what that means, to me, but it's ongoing. I earlier, before this conversation I shared with you, I'm 7 months pregnant and this has unleashed more things about me. So I'm actually probably in a transition of where I'm like, queen me for real, like myself, like queen you, Candace, like you're making a nice home for your son and just, certain things. There will be certain things in your life, whether it's on a professional level or a personal level of where you're like, yeah, definitely queen me for that. Queen me for this thought that I had that is going to take off. So yeah, it's evolving, honestly, I would say.
I love that. Thank you so much for all that you do and for sharing your time
Yes,
with us.
thank
And
you.
we'll include all of your links in the description and can't wait for people to follow along on your journey. And congratulations on
Thank you.
that is so exciting. So
I'm
thank you
excited.
so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us.